Hi everyone. So, long time. But I'm here. Yuki's here. She went through a lot. We were not away. We were in New York. We haven't moved. We didn't even go to the farm upstate, with our friend Belkis. Voilà. It was not a vacation. On the good side of things, maybe one day I'll write a book about all that kind of stuff, and also being at the, how shall I say, like when you have to drive a startup, when you have to drive certain things for an entire industry. Plus, I think this Omicron disturbed everybody more than we thought. Like Delta did not disturb as much, but the Omicron variant, I did not get the virus, but some in my entourage did, whether friends or at work. Then I had planned for a backup to come from Europe. The backup got Omicron. Then I had planned for the backup of a backup. We had planned together. Could not travel. And so at least finally now, my assistant is back in the lab. Eliane, that you know from the Patreon mailing. And Chester just arrived, so you probably going to meet him. We are going to do 1 or 2 Patreons together, but also he's doing some Instagram, and we are working together in the lab. Or I'm helping him on some things, and he's going to help me move forward in the lab. So voilà. So no, it's not that I went on vacation in the Caribbean or something. Bon. So sorry. Thank you so very much for your patience. I am recording where I left it at in December. It was like second half of December. So I do owe you a video a week for even the baseline of Patreon. And I would say I'll take only 1 week vacation. Let's say the last week of December won't count. And then, voila. So then we have the question and answer. So I do have this recorded. I'm going to do this after this video. It's going to be 2 videos because we have obviously a lot of questions. And then the Rhino mail is being prepared as we speak for January. We will ship January and half of February together. So I explained to you what is coming in January. We're going to add February, and which is going to be about chocolate. And then the second half of February will come with March at the end of February. So this way it's a little bit less of organization. I don't know if you understand the amount of work it is to ship this Rhino mail. Basically, we're the only ones to do this in the world. It's not even planned in the Patreon system, so it's quite a thing. Plus the follow-up with everybody, but everybody has been great. I think you've asked questions only when it's really necessary about tracking, and I think you're tracking, and I've seen 1 or 2 people that have downgraded because I guess it was too difficult for them to receive it in their country. But it was basically 2 people out of 53 we have currently. So this is quite a thing. So we're very proud, and I hope it helps everybody. So today, it's winter outside. We are in this spell of cold in New York. We've had 2 or 3 snowstorms, a really bad slush storm. I fell on the ground. But everybody has stories. And I hope everybody's going through the winter more or less okay. And that you are all vaccinated so you don't get super sick if you do get the virus. And I want to talk about cold. We are going to talk about 2 things. Cold for probably 10 minutes. And then 5 minutes, I want to talk about something new I want to start doing and something I want to stop doing. And it's about training people. So I want to maybe start doing it a little bit more. That's more pragmatic for me, more pragmatic for you. And because several questions now are around that. So about cold. So let's talk about cold. And ingredients and cold in the kitchen. So you know already from me that it's very, very important if you are in perfumery to have as many fridges as you need in your lab to hold the fragile ingredients. I think if you are not in perfumery at all, but obviously if you're on Patreon, you like fragrances. But even if you would not never wear fragrances, you have to have a fridge in your kitchen. I think that's kind of obvious now. And in that fridge, I know already some people, they store their cosmetics. A few creams, I know for a fact that it's from cosmetic companies that users regularly now store some creams in their fridges. Let's start with the ingredients, because if you have a fridge in the kitchen, you can also store your perfume in the kitchen. But let's start with the ingredients. So in perfumery, we have, whether you use 300 ingredients like certain perfumers are saying, I've been reading about them, and or like me, you have more about 1,300 and more ingredients. It all depends what you do, extra. It's not about the number. It doesn't matter how many you have. From the first 10 ingredients you have, I'm sure you have at least one citrus oil, or I'm sure you have maybe jasmine, or maybe lavender, or maybe ginger, or maybe we can go on and on, or pink pepper. So you have to have a fridge. If you don't have many ingredients, just buy a small fridge. Now, when I say a fridge, if you have an old fridge, so a fridge for the kitchen is at 4 degrees. So 4 degrees is 39 Fahrenheit. That's what you have for the kitchen. For a lab, you don't need to go that down. If that's all you have, just use that. It's better than nothing. If you're going to buy one for the lab, maybe buy a wine fridge. Some are really expensive. You don't need $1,000 wine fridge. Well, the big ones are $1,000. But sometimes the small ones are also $1,000. This is bullshit. Just buy one. It's better to have a glass window if you want to have a trick, but you don't have to have a glass window. But there are fridges for like $100, $200, $300. And this is very helpful. So I want to tell you, for instance, as soon as you receive a citrus oil, it has to go in the fridge. If your citrus oil stays on the counter, one day it's okay, but I can tell you already for a fact, after 2 weeks, it will go like this. Now, talking about the temperature of your lab, I know sometimes we cannot choose. Even me in New York, I won't say that sometimes the AC is not on and then it gets hot in there. But try not to go in the 30s in your lab, number one. Second, when we say interior temperature is about 20 degrees, which is about 68 Fahrenheit, that's already better than nothing. A factory, a big fragrance factory once told me that if they keep their ingredients already at 18 degrees C, which is 64 Fahrenheit, so if you keep your ingredients already at that, you don't go above that, that's already a step. They say this is already better, so 64 is better than 68, 18 is better than 20. Do this for me. You take a temperature, you take a thermometer. You all have a thermometer now. Since COVID, everybody has thermometers at home. You go in your shower, you put the water at 37 degrees, which is about 98, I think, Fahrenheit. You turn the water on and you put it at that, or even put it at 96, put it at 36 degrees. Then put it at 37, then put it at 38, then put it at 39, then put it at 40, 41, and 42 Celsius. Hey Alexa, what is 42 Celsius in Fahrenheit?
42 degrees Celsius is 107.6 degrees Fahrenheit.
Voilà. So, I'm at someone's place, by the way, here. My friend is training in Paris, Andrew, and I'm squatting in the apartment. So all the artwork is curated by Andrew Everett, by the way. So, for the people that are more accustomed to Fahrenheit, you go in your shower, you take your thermometer, your body thermometer, and you put the water temperature at, you start at about 94, 96, 98, 100, and then you go up to 107. You know, you start having fever about when you're in the 100, 101. Huh? That's when we were saying in the office you have to watch. You are going to see how many, like 1 degree Celsius, how different it is. We don't think. And we say, oh, 37, 38, or we say 18 degrees, 19 degrees is the same. It's incredible how the body is sensitive to 1 degree, but you will also Celsius, so do it at 2 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? You are going to see how it's very different. So here, that's why. So the factory was saying 18 degrees, which is 64, is already better than 68, which is 20 degrees. Now I do know in the summer particularly, try to keep your inside temperature at 18. I know in New York, I know in a lot of countries that's impossible. Even with AC, you think you come in a building, you're freezing because outside is 40 C. So 40 C outside, it means you are in the 100 degree Fahrenheit outside. And no, Yuki, there is nothing at the door here, it's right here. And so, and inside we think we are freezing, but it's already like 23, which is about 70, 72 Fahrenheit, you know? So keeping 64, 18 degrees in the summer is quite difficult, but well, at least it gives you an idea about all this. Sorry for the rambling, but I think it's important. You're going to keep this information your whole life. We should be taught this at school because it's not just for perfumery. So me, I like the wine coolers. They are about 12 degrees, 10 to 12 degrees, which is 50, 54, 55. That's plenty. Now, as I say, if you have a fridge at 4, which is like 39 degrees, that's also fine. Now, what you have to know is the following. Once you keep your things at really 39 degrees, 4 Celsius, 39 Fahrenheit, when you take the thing out, you're going to have a lot of condensation right away, especially in New York, especially in warm, humid climates. And then you have this water that is going to drip on the bottle. So this is why it's not ideal at all. But it's better than nothing again. So again, if you are in the 12, 13 degrees, which is about 54, 55 Fahrenheit, you will see that you don't get that condensation right away. It's totally pragmatic. You can even take your ingredient out, you use them. And what I tell my assistants is that all the fridge ingredients, before going home that night, it doesn't matter if you don't have time to tidy up the lab, we don't care. But the fridge ingredients have to go back in the fridge. Even worse if it's before the weekend. You don't want these things to stay on the bench on the weekend. And I guarantee you, take a nice lemon oil, just even lemon oil, a mandarin oil. You leave it on the bench for 2 weeks, even normal temperature. Doesn't have to be hot in the summer. You will see your oil is already like this. Voilà. So you should know that. Now, what I want to mention not more, but beside that, is having a fridge in the kitchen. So first of all these fragrances, those vintage fragrances, that you're going to keep for a long time. So some are already old that you bought from the 40s, from the 30s, from the 60s, and you want to keep. You're not going to use them within 1 month or 2 months. Or you buy Smile and Shine from the zoo, which is full of citrus oils. Or you buy some other fragrances that have this very sparkling top. So if you buy a fragrance that is a grapefruit fragrance, I've never brought the attention, but if you buy Club Design or Scent Tattoo from the zoo, if you buy Rich Mess, the best, in fact, would be you keep, and if you're not going to use them within 1-2 months, although the grapefruit is still going to go like this over 1-2 months, but let's not be finicky, we have to live as well. But if you know you're going to keep that bottle for a bit, it's better you keep it in your fridge or have your little wine cooler with your fragrance. So, but it is not stupid, you will see. And then I have to tell you, when you spray that cool fragrance and you put it back in the fridge, so even if it's at 4 degrees, 39 Fahrenheit, even if it's hot, you take it out, you spray it, you put it back. It doesn't have time to have the whole condensation. So this is also very pragmatic, you should know. And it feels really good. When you spray things and you have the coolness of the fridge on you, I think it's really nice. So there are a few ingredients like that on the market. My vintage perfumes are all in a fridge, in a wine cooler. So not a fridge, but a wine cooler. Because also you should know the packaging is sometimes you keep the cardboard box, or if you put them in a cardboard box, if you're at 4 degrees in the fridge and then you take out, the water goes on them. After several times, you will see the cardboard box gets a bit damaged because the condensation water, when you take it out, goes in the cardboard box. But that's if you do a lot of back and forth. Well, anyway, you got my point now. Now I want to emphasize one more thing about the kitchen, because I'm very big in superfood. And I'm very big, as you can tell, in preserving freshness. Not everything is perfect here, I can tell you, but I'm much more careful. If you want to know, in my lab, I have 9 fridges. So it's not a joke. It is a thing to have fridges in the lab. And in the kitchen, of course, I only have one fridge. So non-fridges, 2 wine coolers this size, a waist size, are just ingredients. Another large fridge are just archive of ingredients. So this you don't have to have. It's just because I have a lot of ingredients for all my years. So that's a bit different. But at least 2 wine coolers are active ingredients. And then another cooler is for finished perfumes. And then another cooler is for vintage finished perfumes. And so if you are rigorous, I don't put the finished perfumes with the ingredients because after many years, I think one can go in the other, but I did not verify that. If you have only a few ingredients, a few perfumes, use your kitchen fridge or have a different perfume. Now your broccoli will start to smell of perfume. If you keep something long, or maybe your hot sauce, if you keep it long with some perfume ingredients, the hot sauce won't get into the perfume ingredients, but the perfume ingredient might get into the hot sauce, but it smells nice. Or into your coffee, because now this is my next thing I want you to know. So, in the kitchen, people will tell you when they come visit me, all my coffee is in the fridge or in the freezer, and all my teas are in the fridge or in the freezer. Okay, so in the kitchen. So, you see, oops, sorry. I just moved something. But you see, so this is tea, matcha even much more important. So green tea, black tea is less important because it's already fermented, oxidized. In fact, black tea is not a superfood. So black tea, I'm not a specialist. The pu'er tea, you could argue, I still put it in the fridge because I don't want it to evolve anymore and I don't know how it evolves. But it's a bit like a red wine. You can still have it in the fridge because you don't want it to evolve anymore unless you really have a real cellar. And then when you drink it, you can take it out. But matcha, you have to keep your matcha in the fridge. There's no other way. Otherwise, it will start going from bright green to less green to brownish green or yellow green. You don't want that. And then all my different coffees. This is a coffee someone just brought me from this one is, I don't remember if it's Costa Rica or Nicaragua, it doesn't matter. These are my specialty coffee, the Red Rooster, I love. This is another coffee that I've tasted last year. I have all my notes. I still have a little bit left. It goes in the fridge or the freezer. So here is my experience. In terms of chemistry, first of all, you don't want all these superfoods to oxidize. Because that's what they are for. They are there to oxidize the bad radicals in your body. So you want them to have them fresh. Second, I've done the experiment. You will see your green tea. Do your green tea. Keep it outside. Keep half outside and half inside. So you keep like that. You remove the air and you close and then you put it in the fridge. Or you remove the air, you roll it, you put a plastic rubber band and you keep it in the fridge. Here's my experiment. So voilà, do that and you will see very fast, and you don't have to wait for 3 months. Already, I'm telling you, 2 weeks. The green tea that stayed outside is short versus the green tea that stayed inside. The matcha are the same. Now, the kitchen fridge, so what I do is I take the matcha from the fridge, I take the matcha, I put it in my bowl, and I put it right back in the fridge. Doesn't have time to get the condensation water. So the story about this thing, the shock of temperature, no. What is much more important is the shock of staying outside and getting oxidized in the warm temperature. When I say warm, 20 degrees, 68, that's warm. Things happen already there. Then I've done the experiment. So I've taken a coffee. So far, when you keep the coffee, you just buy the coffee, it's still totally sealed. Totally sealed, you can still keep it outside. And I suspect they remove most of the oxygen and it's okay. You keep it outside. I don't know for several months, but several weeks is okay. Once you start opening it, then you have to keep it in the fridge or the freezer. I did the experiment. If you keep it outside versus the fridge or the freezer, it's a big difference. Between the fridge and the freezer, sometimes your freezer is empty, then just put your coffee in there. Was not much difference. Several weeks, even several months in the fridge or in the freezer, there was not much difference. Then I will just, no, people again, I will say, yeah, but it takes the water. No. If you take it out, you use the coffee, you take out the coffee you need, you put it right back in the freezer, but the fridge is still better. You put it right back in the fridge, it's totally fine, okay? So it's really, really, really important. You will see how you keep the freshness of your The tea, the coffee is the number one thing. Tea and coffee, number one thing. But there are many superfood. I keep flaxseed oil should be kept in the fridge. I was told that olive oil you don't need to keep in the fridge, and I still have not checked that. It is true that olive oil, I have it on the kitchen counter, but my olive oil in 1 or 2 months is gone. So I use about a bottle a month. But it's true that it's still tasty and you can still feel the grittiness. Olive oil has to feel, well, it depends which one, but usually the ones with the superfood, you can feel the polyphenol because it goes, bon, voilà. And then the nice floral or green cut grass notes are still there for a while. So that's what I was told by olive oil experts, to be verified. Flaxseed, I know, has to stay in the fridge. That's another super oil food. And palm oil is not a superfood. Colza, what do you call it in English? I don't remember. That's not a superfood. But flaxseed oil, yes. So this is all in the fridge. So I hope that's going to help you now to keep your food better, and also and to keep your fragrances and your fragrance ingredient better. So voilà. So I hope you've learned a little bit about that. The last thing I want to mention for the coffee, one day I'll do a whole coffee thing. I did a lot of experiment about coffee, but the one thing I want to tell you is you keep it as a bean, because that makes a big difference. The grinding, you have 15 minutes to drink it, okay? I mean, to pour the water on it. I did my experiment, and I showed to myself that after 20 minutes it was shot. When you grind coffee, after 20 minutes the ground is shot. If you haven't poured the water, trash it, grind some fresh one. And then I read the specialty coffee instructions, and they give you 15 minutes. So we totally agree from totally different angles. Me, perfumery, chemical engineering, and then coffee experts over the years. You buy the beans, you take them out, you grind them on the spot, and within 15 minutes you use them. Okay? Voilà. And you put back the beans in the fridge. So yes, my fridge has a whole box of coffee. Sometimes I have a whole... When people open my fridge, there's like a whole shelf, sometimes 2 shelves in the fridge of just coffee. So, well, if you're a big family, you may want to buy a small fridge, but it's where you put the priority. You may want to buy then a mini fridge just for coffee and tea, for instance, and a few other items that are precious. I put my acai powder in the fridge. I know it's superfood. I don't know if it gets oxidized outside, but I do that too. The flaxseed seeds also, and things like that. I mean, the grounded flaxseed. So that's 22 minutes, and I want to spend a few minutes now to discuss the following with you, and I don't have an answer. So I've looked a little bit. I spent a lot of time doing a lot of smaller projects to support my company, my people, and also because it's interesting for me to have a lot of different small projects. But it turns out that this is totally not, it's eating me up, because I spend much more time, I spend as much time and as much quality time on a small project than a very large project, because the fragrance has to be the same, whether you launch 1 candle or 1 perfume, 1 bottle of perfume, or you launch 1 million bottles. It has to be the same quality. You as a perfumer is the same work, right? And plus a lot of small projects, you spend a lot of time explaining people the basic of perfumery or the basic of running a perfume project, from the safety to the packaging to the factory to, even when it rolls on, even just people will tell you just relationship with the perfume factory is a thing. It does not exist to just place an order and the oil comes. Well, it exists 1 out of 2. So 50% of the time, there is 1 order is 10 to 20 emails, and 1 delivery is 10 to 20 emails, and several times a year it's investigations because something didn't go as planned in terms of ingredient, perfume, smell, and this is not blaming anybody. It's very complicated in perfumery, and we still have processes. Even the factories using SAP, for the technicians among you, you know SAP very well. Even the factories using SAP, there are significant amounts of steps that are still human steps or hand steps. So I can go on and on. And at the same time, what I'm seeing more and more are people asking me about from private lessons to coaching them creating a fragrance. That is maybe for me more pragmatic. So my coaching them creating a fragrance, I can, I've started doing this a little bit, and I can find my way so that it's more profitable for me too, because you see, I have a startup. There are no managers that want to join, because the French industry is set up in a way that they have very comfortable position and good for them. And so I need to look a little bit differently. So coaching people on a fragrance, this I can manage, and it's not so often. But people are asking me like 1 hour here, 2 hours there. So I would like to hear from you what you would be ready to pay, because that's the bottom line, for a 1 hour coaching. So right now, my reference, it would be like a lawyer. So if you take a lawyer, if you take an everyday normal lawyer, and there are thousands like that just in New York City, they are about $300 an hour. If you then take the upper lawyer at the firm, it's between $500 and $800 an hour. And I won't hide you, when I do consulting for a company, that's more what I charge. Okay, it's not what's more. That's where I am when I charge. Now I do know that for some students, it's like asking you having one of the lawyer, and I'm not talking the star system. So it's not the lawyer for Michael Jackson here, which are in the thousands an hour or thousand and above an hour. I'm not talking that. So I'm talking the senior lawyer in a law firm, and there are still thousands of those in America and in the world. Those are usually now more in the 600, 800 an hour. Now, is that pragmatic for you when you want me to coach you on something? Or, I don't know, we need to think of a system, because people are asking me a lot. I do want to help some people in certain countries as much as in other countries. It's a very difficult subject, and it still has to be okay for me, because the bottom line is that I'm the one squatting in people's apartment, because I cannot have an apartment, because everything I do I put in perfumery, and the last thing I put in my store, so I don't have a living room. I tell everybody the store is my living room, because I want to show one day, hopefully you come to the store, you will see how the store has nothing like any other perfumery. So this has to be thought. I mean, we are trying, we're redesigning, repainting, changing the name, changing this, building devices, trying them over several weeks. This is all a thing. And then paying people to attend all this, although there is no revenue, because we're starting. So we're starting a store, but on top of that, we do a lot of unusual things with it. Just the labeling of samples is already nightmare to organize, because we have real labels. The management of you can see the zoo. I showed you one day, we have so many features on the label of the zoo. So it means a lot of the labels, I cannot print 5,000 labels for the next 3 years, because they change with the date of the oil, they change with this, they change with that. It's something. So that's fine. I put everything back in perfumery right now, but I need one more step. So I think if I coach more people, I think if I give more, not classes, because I don't want to prepare. I don't want, this is yet another thing, giving a class. And then I'm not an academia, and I want to create still. But when people, maybe they can gather their question, and then they have a condensate of 1 hour, an hour and a half. But I want to feel from you what would be reasonable for you, what would be reasonable, like if it's a student, how I can do that if I'm helping a student versus I'm helping someone that already has a brand on the market, or someone that is, it's also not fair if I help someone in India in a very simple family versus someone rich in California. Sorry for the stereotypes, but I still want to help both, and right now I'm helping both, and with not much for me at the end. So I'm really happy to help everybody, but it's been also one reason of this thing, and I haven't done everything I want to do for this industry, to move this industry from here to here, because we are not here. We are not a 2022 year an industry deserving 2022. We are an industry that is 100 years behind still in many principles. And we need to move artistry perfumery, which needs some new infrastructure. So that's yet another thing I need to create. So voila. So if you could, in the comments or privately or in the comments, especially the people that have already asked the questions among yourselves, and I get the questions everywhere. And I think, you see, I'm quite candid about pricing. And I think that's also another way to move the industry. We don't know what people are charged when they're in music, even as a lawyer, you know, so we just know the mainstream lawyers. But I think we have to have this discussion in perfumery, and so that it's, and I think it can help me. Because frankly, if I give 10 hours, I've calculated if I give 10 hours of, consulting, advising, we can work on a formula, we can work on anything, packaging, whatever. 10 hours is the equivalent of me creating a candle fragrance and without preparing anything. So these are 10 hours for me. And that money I can use for my Yuki, because she's going to have a lot of medical bills that I can use for me, so that I can have a regular place, and so that I can reinvest in perfumery to do the next thing we need to do in perfumery for ethics. And for artistic perfumery, we need a certain infrastructure for collectors that we need to organize all together. Voila, so that's 31 minutes. Thank you for listening. I hope you've learned a lot. So if you could give so about the cold temperatures, I hope you've learned stuff for your life and the life of your perfumes, your ingredients, and the best beverage that you enjoy every day. And then the second thing, hopefully that can grow the industry if I can help people, but in a pragmatic way and that it's fair for everyone. Voila. Let me know. Thank you so much. So now I'm going to do the video for the all the debunk about answering several questions we received. Thank you.